We all of us like to think that we're special and unique. I certainly remember when I was first ordained and had quite a sizable sick communion round. And if I went away on holiday, I left strict instructions as to what was to happen while I was away. And when I got back, I found that nothing had happened, but nobody had missed me. So that put me in my place. The people of Israel, the Jews, believe that they of all the nations on the earth had been specially chosen by God as his own. He'd blessed them with the gift of their very own country. He'd given them anointed kings to protect them and guide them. He'd made them promises, and these promises to them had been fulfilled. They triumphed over their enemies who didn't believe in God. And that greatest spiritual gift of all was theirs. He promised them salvation. No other nation shared these blessings. They were for Jews and for Jews alone. In the Gospel today, we heard our Lord preaching at home in Nazareth. He's grown up among these people. He knows them, and they know him. Sometimes famous sons returning to their home receive the freedom of the city or a triumphal procession in an open-topped bus. Crowds, speeches, rapturous welcome. But if they're more controversial figures, they may well encounter resistance at home. And it's this that happens to Jesus. Jesus shows his frustration a little by drawing his hearers' attention to examples from the past of times when God's blessings have flowed outside the chosen, the elect. So he quotes the widow of Zarephath, a Sidonian town, and the curing of the Syrian Naaman. We heard the full account of the healing of Naaman in the Old Testament reading today, cured of leprosy by Elisha, God's prophet. If we look at Naaman, he himself is skeptical, is hostile to the prophet, asking why he should bathe in such an insignificant little stream in Israel when there are so many greater rivers in his own country. But he's finally persuaded by his entourage. He bathes and he is healed. God does not limit his actions. This healing has a part to play in God's greater plan for his creation. For Naaman now acknowledges the God of Israel as the one true God. Now our Lord picks up on this story and offers it to the people of Nazareth as a sign that God does work outside the channels which humans impose on him. He foresees perhaps that his message is going to find greater favour with non-Jews, outsiders, but outsiders who are hungry for healing and for the message of salvation. Greater favour with them than with those who want to limit God's actions because they are too entrenched in their way of thinking. For hundreds of years, we in the Catholic Church held strongly to that doctrine that there is no salvation outside the Church. And we interpreted that doctrine by seeing no reason to even talk to people of other faiths and those who have no faith. Today, we do accept the possibility that God may act in ways beyond our analysis. So, several times the Pope has invited representatives of other religions to join with him in public prayer for world peace, a couple of times in Assisi. We now talk and listen to other Christians and cooperate with them in projects whenever we can. And that fourth Eucharistic prayer has a petition for those whose faith you alone have known. It may be that we were caught up in the same mindset of those people of Nazareth. Perhaps we've tried to limit the scope for God's grace to flow. You may remember that verse from the great Father Faber's famous hymn. But we make his love too narrow through false limits of our own, and we magnify his strictness with a zeal he will not own. The Church still believes and proclaims our Lord Jesus Christ to be the definitive revelation of God. He alone is the way, the truth, and the life. We know with all our heart that no one can come to the Father except through him. But we also allow for God's providence guiding people towards the truth in a plan beyond anything you and I can imagine. May Our Lady of Walsingham, Our Lady, seat of wisdom, lead and guide us to recognize and accept her Son's compassion and providence.